In today's video, I'm doing the best no-wrap smoked ribs. These are amazing. Hey, this is Ricer from Dead Broke Barbecue Nation, and welcome back to the channel. But if you're new here, we try to help you enhance and amplify your backyard barbecue fun, so you might as well subscribe right now and join the Dead Broke Barbecue Nation over on Facebook. Now, cooking no-wrap ribs is still my favorite way, but around here, we call them eating ribs. So grab yourself some St. Louis ribs, Carl, because we're gonna amplify some backyard barbecue fun. I removed these St. Louis style ribs out of the cryovac. I went ahead and pulled the membrane and then patted them dry. Now on the bone side, I just used some salt and pepper just to give it a little bit of touch of flavor, but you don't want to add any sugar on the bottom of a no-wrap rib because that sugar is going to start to burn and it's going to end up getting a little bit darker on that bone side. But if you like char, throw some sugar rub on the bottom of it. For the meat side, I used some Texas rib grind, and that is made by my good friend Bill over at Chicken Fried Barbecue. I'm really excited to try this one out. I've heard a lot about it and it's plastered all over the interzones. I'll put a link to his Instagram account and you can go ahead and follow him there. To cook these best no-wrap ribs, I'm using my Z-Grills 600 2B3. I'm only doing 2 racks, so I don't need a lot of room, and this thing is gonna be perfect. Now, if you remember when I did the burn off, I said the controller ran pretty dang good, so I'm excited to do these ribs and see how the little Z-Grill does. I'm using some Z-Grills cherry pellets for this cook. Cherry always goes great on ribs. Open up the lid and we're just gonna feed them right in there. Level off the hopper and we'll close up the lid. This particular model does not have the largest hopper, so you might have to check it in about 2.5 to 3 hours on any cook that you do. But one hopper should certainly be able to do a couple racks of ribs. Like always, open up your lid, turn the power on, and we're just gonna turn it to smoke. Now it's only been about a minute and I can already see it starting to smoke in that chamber. But we're not gonna close up that lid until it starts burning clean, because the gases that are in the initial startup, they can ignite and you're gonna blow off your lid. If you've been watching me long enough, you've heard that before, but I always tell it to save other people's pits. It's burning nice and clean and we're gonna close up the lid and preheat it for about 10 minutes and then we'll go ahead and slap in these ribs. My 10-minute timer went off. Let's go ahead and rack these up. Now the fire pot on this model is right here, so we want to kind of keep these ribs over to the right-hand side. Now how we put these in is how they're going to cook, so I always try to get them squished up a little bit because we want a little bit more meatier bite. These aren't the biggest rack of ribs, but they're decent. Same thing with this one. We'll get it in here, and we want to leave a little bit of room in between them so we get some cooking on the ends and we can get some of that smoke to come up through there. Now, I'm only gonna run these on smoke for 30 minutes, so set a timer and then we'll come back out here and crank it up to 275 degrees. My 30-minute timer went off. Let's go ahead and turn this little Z-Grills up to 275 degrees. So we'll just spin her right up. And let's go ahead and rotate these 180 degrees. And they're actually starting to already develop a little bit of smoke color. Haven't really firmed up yet, so we're gonna wanna squish these again. But seeing that this is such a small pit, I wanna make sure that these get the same amount of cooking time on each part of this pit, because I didn't do an actual test on the temperatures of it. I'm trusting this controller that it's actually cooking at the temperature that I want it to be at. That's why I'm setting 30-minute timers, so I'm coming out here to make sure that my cook is going right. So with that being said, I'm gonna set a timer for 30 minutes and then I'm gonna come out to make sure that my rub is starting to set. And if it is, then I'll start spritzing them up a little bit. I set 2 30-minute timers and then rotated it once, but let's go ahead and check to see if our rub is starting to stick. That rub is dynamite. Yeah, we're starting to get kind of flexy. We got a ways to go, but that's pretty good color. And we're starting to get a little bit of pullback on them. Rotate this one to here, and I'll put this one over to here. Now the rub is set in certain areas, but others it's not, so we're gonna give it another 30 minutes before we start spritzing them. We don't want them to dry out. When you're doing a no-wrap rib, you want them to stay moist, but you want that rub to set first. I'm 2.5 hours into this cook, and now it's time we're gonna start spritzing these up. I'm using 1 part barrel-aged maple vinegar, 2 parts apple cider vinegar, and 3 parts apple juice. Now this is just a simple spritz. You can do whatever you want. This is just one that I typically use. Check these out now. I really like the color. Now the rub is set. I can just tell from touching it. There's not a lot of juice buildup because every time I went ahead and rotated it, I turned them on their side to get a little bit of the juice off of it. So we'll just start adding our spritz. We just want to cover them up a little bit, don't drown them. And now I'm just going to keep on monitoring these until they get probe tender. I'm not going to actually monitor with a probe the internal temperature on those ribs. But if you are new to this and you need kind of a mark of where they are usually typically done, I say look at about 198 degrees and then you have a nice bite off the bone rib. I'll bring it back when it's time to check some tenderness. I'm just a little over 4 hours into this cook, but these ribs are looking great. And the Z-Grills, it ran pretty dang good, but there's 2 things that I noticed. Number 1, the grease pail, it should be a lot bigger because there was grease running over on the right-hand side that the pail isn't catching. Number 2, I have it set at 275 degrees, but it consistently ran about 25 degrees hotter. And that's not a big deal because I run hot and fast ribs all the time, but I think if you own this pit, you should throw an ambient temperature probe in there so you have a better idea so you set your controller correctly. And this is a great time to give this video a thumbs up and become a subscriber. And if you haven't already, join the Dead Broke Barbecue Nation over on Facebook. And I want to give a huge thank you to all my Patreons for all your support. Without you, I can't do this. Thanks again. So let's suit up and check for some tenderness. Grab a toothpick or your probe. I absolutely love the color that these ribs are developing, and they certainly are flexy. They're still touching the grate. That means that they're gonna be done. And if you look at the bone side, still nice and light. Start poking it in. Oh yeah, no resistance, just like peanut butter. These are done. So we'll get these out and I'm gonna let them rest for a little bit and then we'll push in the cutting board and give them a taste test. But before I roll in that cutting board, the Z-Grill 600 2B3 is gonna do one more task. I don't know if my camera is gonna pick this up, but that is ice cold. You always gotta have a cold beer. I'll see you in a couple minutes. These no-wrap ribs have rested for about 10 minutes. I gotta give them a try. Slice right across this one. Now these aren't the biggest and meatiest ribs that you can buy, but this is what I could find. You can see we got a nice little smoke ring on there. They're nice and juicy. They got some good glisten to them. Hope it's showing up on the camera. Let's take a bite. Very good. Bite off the bone. Little crispiness on them, just like I like. And Bill, you got a fabulous rub right here. This Texas rib grind is perfect on spare ribs. And you can certainly tell Bill's a Texan because there's some great black pepper in this. Now, no-wrap ribs might not be for everybody, but I like it when they got that little crispy bark on the outside. And the Z-Grills, it did a good job on this rib cook. If you're looking for a pellet grill that isn't that big and runs good, Z-Grill 600 2B3. Well, cheers to you. Roll the nation. Cut right through that bone, buddy. Cut right through the bone. That's awesome. This thing's so sharp it cut right through the bone. I don't have my glasses on, but look at that. Good knife. This thing is way too bright. We're so bright. I'm gonna have to drop the ISOs down on every single one of these. God darn it. I have to drop the highlights down on every single one of them. I set my ISO wrong. Ugh.